Good morning, boys and girls. Today we are going to be starting our balance project. And I'm trying to make sure that my camera is picking up my whole sheet of paper because I had to stack books up so that we can see what I'm doing. So for this project we need a full sheet of black paper and a box of oil pastels. So my friends, oil pastels are a little bit messy. They're not too bad, but they can get your hands messy. They can get your clothes messy if you wipe your fingers on your hands or if you drag your arm across your paper. So you need to be careful when you're using these. You should be holding your paper in a specific way and you should be drawing pretty carefully. So another thing about these oil pastels is they're pretty expensive and they don't last too long, but they look really nice, especially when you're drawing on like a dark piece of paper. So we want to make sure we are taking care of our oil pastels. If they fall on the floor, pick them up. I'm not going to dump a bunch of them out at once. I'm going to make sure to have a couple at a time. And there I go. To open my box of oil pastels, I simply hold my cover, put my hand in, push that box out, and pull. Now this box, think of it as the oil pastels house. I don't want to kill their house, then they're homeless. So I'm going to be nice to this box. I'm not going to put my arm through it. I'm not going to be a booger. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to set it aside. And now, here are my oil pastels. You don't need to tell me if they are not in the best condition, because as I said earlier, they kind of deteriorate pretty quickly. So like over a couple of times being used, they break pretty easy. So just take care of them. So if I take a look at my whole paper, we have studied. Last week we took notes on balance. That's our first unit. And our project is going to focus on asymmetrical balance that shows depth in our project. So depth. In order to show depth, we need to have something in our foreground, middle ground, and background. Okay, so we're going to be drawing a pumpkin patch at night. Since it's almost fall time, I like doing this type of a project. The first thing I'm going to start with is black. I know what you're thinking. Oh my goodness, black on black is not going to show. You'd be surprised, it shows pretty well. So here I go. So first of all, I'm going to go to the bottom left corner and I'm going to draw a pretty decent sized oval. Okay, so my oval is going to go about a third of the way up my paper and come almost to the bottom. And it's not right at the edge, it's a little bit in. So I'm going to slowly draw my oval. So, tilt my camera a little bit so you can see it better. There we go. There's my first oval. Now, a pumpkin isn't just one oval like that. That's not, if I look at that, I'm going to not think it's a pumpkin. So I got to make it more pumpkinish. To begin with, I go to the very back, very top, tippity top of my oval, and I'm going to come around and connect to the bottom. So it's like I'm going to make a big old letter C coming out from my oval. Then I'm going to go to the other side and do a backwards letter C from the tippity top to the bottom. Okay. My pumpkin is not perfect. I could even do another one. Yeah, let's do another one. I'm going to do another one coming off the top. Ooh, pumpkin. You're looking kind of pumpkin-y. And then I'm going to make a stem coming off the top. Okay. So, if we were doing a drawing that was to show depth, we have to have things in our foreground, middle ground, and background. What would this be in? Our foreground. Okay. Now we're going to start to fill the space in. So my friends, I'm first going to be adding a line kind of coming across, and my line is technically broken right now. It's not a full line. It's just going to be giving me a guideline to where my ground is going to be. So this is the ground in my foreground. Now let's add some pumpkins in our middle ground. So in our middle ground, I'm going to have this one floating right now. Mine's going to be a bit of a smaller oval this time. To the top, bottom, top, bottom, up, over, down. And maybe over this way I might draw a little smaller one. So if it's closest, whoops, I don't know if you can actually see that. Can you see that? Yay, okay. So if it's closest to us, it's in our foreground, it's big. If it's far away from us, it's smaller. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another brokenish line. Okay, so I've got pumpkin in my foreground, some pumpkins in my middle ground, and maybe what we should do is draw some pumpkins pretty far away. So this one's going to be really little. This one's going to be actually kind of hard to color in. Okay, and maybe another little one in the background. Oh, little pumpkins, you're so cute. Okay. So, currently I've taken up the space. My background is empty at the current moment. I'm going to leave it empty at the current moment. Later on, we'll get it sorted. So, what is going to come next is coloring. So I'm going to actually pause the video right now, and I'm going to give Miss Jo a chance to get ready to begin the coloring phase. Oh no, my hands are messy. That's okay. That's to be expected. Okay, when we are going to color our pumpkins, we're going to use a lot of different colors. So typically you would not see one color on a three-dimensional object. You see a lot. Okay, so our pumpkins are typically orange. I'm going to get an orange out. I'm going to be getting a yellow out. And I'm going to be kind of using this brown. I picked the more golden brown. And as I work, I might decide I don't like that one. And if I don't, that's fine. I can switch it up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my first pumpkin. And in the middle, I'm going to add some coloring with my yellow. Now, boys and girls, these are not crayons. So you're not coloring perfectly. Please don't treat them like they are crayons. We can smear this stuff around later and blend things in and cover the space that we left blank by accident. So I should not see you doing level 4 coloring right now. We're aiming more for like a level 3 coloring, if you can remember the craftsmanship board that we studied a lot last year. So, kind of going quickly. That did not take me very long. I'm just coloring the middle spot of my first oval. Then I'm going to go to the middle-ish spot of the backward C. Middle-ish spot. Middle-ish. Ooh, this one's hard. Middle-ish. Okay. Alright. Now, I'm going to take that orange. And the orange is going to go on the outside and overlap a little bit on the yellow. Again, I am not taking an hour to do this. I'm going a little bit on the quick side. And then I'm going to take this brownish. And you know what? That might be a little bit too orangish. Go on the outside. I think it'll do for now. I might darken some things later on. Okay. Pumpkin! I'm going to take the cooler brown. The reason why I call it cooler brown is because when you compare them both, this one it looks like it's a little bit reddish and this one doesn't. So I'm calling it cooler brown. I'm going to take cool brown and I'm going to color in the middle of my stem. And then I'm going to take some black and go on the outside of that stem. Okay, now comes the shading part. So I'm not going to shade with this finger right now. The reason why is because it got black on it. So I don't want to accidentally smear it. So I am picking out which finger I want to use to be my shading finger for my pumpkin. So this one, when I say shading, and I'm sorry, I mean blending. So what I'm gonna do is I'm holding my paper down, and all I do is I'm gonna drag the orange around into my yellow a bit. And then I keep going. And then I'm dragging the black now into the orange a little bit. And I am putting a little bit of pressure on my paper. So I'm not just like, whoa. I'm actually pressing down a little bit. So now I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm not doing the crazy me smear everything around thing because that would not be good. I'm thinking of blending as a really careful job. Gotta take my time with my blending. I don't want it to smear everywhere. Okay. Now when I've got it mostly blended, what I'm gonna do is I might take some more orange and add some more orange. I might drag. I want it to be a little bit orangey. And that kind of gives it the pumpkin-y texture when I set it down and drag it. What? Did she just say texture? Oh my goodness, I wonder what that means. Well, hot dog, if I look up at the elements of art, I can find where it says texture. And then I know what texture is. Woo woo. Okay. Pumpkins are always a little bit shiny. So I'm going to be adding some shine marks. So I'm going to go into the yellow bit. I'm going to add a little shiny. Shiny. I do blend the shine a little bit. If you're cool with it standing out a lot, then that's okay too. And then I'm going to take black one more time. And the areas like the bottom part, I'm going to darken a little bit. Because this is a three-dimensional object, it'll be a little bit darker at the bottom. And since my object is kind of roundish, you see me kind of making almost like letter U's. Okay, and then I'm going to blend that a bit. All right, one pumpkin done. Well, no, it's actually I lied. Almost done. A billion more to go. Okay. I like you, Mr. Pumpkin. You look nice. Well, thank you. I'm a pumpkin. I'm ready for Halloween time and spooky things and being picked and being decorated. Or if you don't like doing that, make me into a pie. I'm a pumpkin. Okay, sorry. Now what I get to do is I get to do the same thing to each of them until all of them are done. Again, our steps. You add yellow first. Orange around. Brown around that. Shade, blend. Add some of the pumpkin orangish texture if you want. If you have no idea what I'm talking about with that, then just ignore that. Just wing it. It's okay. Oh, I'm going to need a new blendy finger, aren't I? And then you add some shadows and highlights. Highlights are the white shiny part. Okay, so I'm going to be pausing the video and you're going to be going to each pumpkin and you're going to be shading it. Go team! So now I have all of my pumpkins ready to go. They're all shaded. They have all their colors on it. They are donezo. And now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to focus on the sky. So we're going to try to add some pretty colors, some movement in our sky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first start out with my yellow. So once I have this yellow, make sure we can see here. Okay. When I first have this yellow, I'm going to begin placing my moon. So you know what? Since I have a big pumpkin on this side, I think I'm going to strategically put my moon on this side to balance it. That's our focus this month, this unit, whatever. So anyways, I'm going to add a moon on this side, and my moon is going to be a crescent moon. So my crescent moon is going to start by, I'm going to add the letter C. Letter C. Pretty easy, huh? And then I go back over it. So once I have my letter C, I fill it in a little bit. And then I'm going to add some stars. Don't go too crazy because we're going to add a lot of fancy lines in the sky. And the more crazy stars you add, the harder it will be to move around those. Okay, so I think I'm good with stars. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my yellow away. I'm going to get out a white. And my white is going to be the glow. I'm actually going to like almost draw a circle around my yellow parts. So I've got my moon is a yellow part. And remember, we don't color perfectly with the pastels. We're not doing this with crayon. Okay. And my circle stars. And I'm not doing this perfectly. I'm kind of leaving it sloppy choppy. And what I'm thinking of when I'm doing this is that painting by Vincent van Gogh called Starry Night. He has a lot of movement in his background, his starry night. And the lines in his painting are kind of broken and messy, kind of. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some wind. It's going to be a windy night. So I'm going to add some lines kind of drifting around. I'm not pushing down too hard with my pastel. So let's get some movement in there. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a light blue and close-ish to the white. I'm not coloring. I'm just trying to add some little lines, kind of rotating around my moon. And then I can take these lines and kind of follow my white windy lines as well. So it's okay if we have that black background peeking through a little bit. Now I'm going to take a darker blue and the same thing. It's going to be spread out a little bit more though. Following some lines, not perfectly. Mm-hmm. Okay, then I have an even darker blue in here. Goodness, our pastel kits have a lot of blues. Ooh, super dark. And the blueies, the really dark blues, are gonna kind of fill in. So we've got a lot of movement in our sky, which is our background. So we've been studying balance. And as we said earlier, our project is focusing on asymmetrical balance. So balance that is not the same on both sides. And that asymmetrical balance, we are studying adding depth into our pictures. So we should have things in our foreground, middle ground, and background. Okay, now that I've got most of it filled in, I'm going to go back with a white and pull these out a little bit more. Whoa. Maybe some of these little baby blue in there too. Interrupted for a second. So anyways, I'm filling some baby blues in. And then up next, I'm going to kind of, not super blend it together, but I am going to kind of smoosh it a little bit. So I should probably be going, whoa. Kind of focus on the starish areas and the moonish area first. And then I'm going to go back into it with some more color and make it fancy. Lots of layers with our sky. Okay, so as you can see, now I have my sky all done. I smeared it around a little bit, then I took my oil pastels back out and I drew back over it. So now I've got lots of nice, pretty movement happening in my sky. Reminds me of Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night. Woohoo, here we go. Now we're missing our ground. So we are going to be using lots of different greens for this. First, I'm going to be taking the darker green. So I've got a darker and a lighter green. Okay, so since my darker green, it's going to be adding the base first. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to begin in my foreground. And remember, things in our foreground are big. Things in our middle ground or background, things that are farther away, will appear small. So I'm going to be adding grass, and the lines that I'm going to add are going to be taller, okay? And I'm going to go past that little line here and there. And I'm not going too crazy. I'm putting these lines very close to each other to try to fill the space in. And I'm just making long grass-like lines They're not going in the same direction. Because if you think about it, grass would be moving, especially in a windy night like we have in our picture. My grass can even overlap my pumpkin a little bit here and there. Make sure you can see. There we go. And once I've filled in most of that space, I'm going to then get out my yellowish green, so my lighter green. It's not too yellowish, it just looks like lime green. And then, still adding some dark green marks. And then what I'm going to do is, in the areas I didn't get, I'm going to be adding some light green marks. And it's okay if I overlap some of my other grass too. So we're not coloring with these, we're just adding texture lines. And I'm trying not to get it on the table, but I bet you I'm going to get it on the table. So we'll just remember to clean that up later. Okay, oops. Now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be getting out of black. And if moonlight is coming from here, I'm going to be casting a shadow from my pumpkin. So hopefully you can see that. What I'm doing is I'm adding some dark coming off my pumpkin over here. And I am going to take black and here and there, not too crazy. I'm going to add some grass lines in black too. It's like it's the shadowed grass. Okay. Looking lovely. And if you see how I'm holding my paper down, I'm using my claw hand. Okay, now I'm gonna go to my middle ground. So this layer, if my grass was about this long, I'm gonna be reducing it in size. It's gonna be shorter. Now I am running out of pastel room, so if I need to take this off, that's fine. Little tip for you guys, we'll throw these away. They're not gonna go back into my container. So these lines are going to be a bit shorter. You want them noticeably shorter. So make sure you get them shorter. Oops. It's okay, Mrs. Joe. Pastels sometimes break. We're almost done with this drawing. Can you believe it? It is looking quite fancy, if I do say so myself. Okay, so it looks like that's pretty good. Grab my lighter one. Remember, grass isn't always super uniform, so they're not always perfectly put in the same direction. So I'm okay with my grass being a little bit quickly drawn. And then the black. Remember what I said earlier about the moon casting a shadow? Well, my shadow, if my moon is hitting my pumpkin here, it's going to be coming out. And I'm not pushing down too hard with the black. I got my shadow. It's coming. So it would be this way. And I'm checking the angle. That's why you see my hand coming down like that. Okay. My last one. So these lines are going to be even teeny tinier. Almost dot-like. I'm kind of getting it up into the sky so that they touch. Because this is my horizon line. A horizon line is where your sky and the earth touch. And the reason why I say earth instead of ground is because you can have a horizon line with water. And that's not ground. So I say earth. So anyways, those are the two lines that separate my horizon line. No, it's the one line that separates my horizon line from my sky and the earth. There we go. Goodness. Mrs. Joe is just so into drawing today that it's hard for me to form thoughts that are comprehensible. My arm is getting tired. And oh yeah, be really careful not to look at my hand. My pastel is sticking. Try to be careful not to smear everything right now. This is really hard at the current moment because everything is filled in. And I gotta move my hand to support my pastel. So I'm just trying to keep it in mind that I don't want to smear. Okay. So since we're doing the same thing over, I'm going to pause the video. So there we go. Okay, so now I've got my foreground and my middle ground grass filled in. I'm going to take a black mark and I'm going to kind of add a sloppy choppy line where my lines were before to kind of give it a little bit more separation. Okay, and now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab white. In the bottom corner, I'm going to nicely sign my name. The reason why I've chosen white is because it's going to kind of carry to my sky, so it's going to kind of give emphasis and it's going to kind of connect everything and make it look nice. And then we are done. Nice starry pumpkins that show depth. I have something in my foreground, my middle ground, and my background. And take a look. I want you to ask yourself right now what kind of balance is present in our picture. All right, see you for the next project.